everyone, welcome to another episode of Identifying God's Best. This is Bruce with another episode of Guy Talk. Today we have the wonderful, awesome privilege to discuss the topic of embracing your singleness. How you, as single men, can embrace your singleness and not just see it as a curse, but really utilizing it so that you can be effective and impactful for the kingdom of God. For today's video, I will be grounding the main principle from 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 32, which tells us that for someone who is unmarried, who's single, he should be concerned for the things of the Lord, concerned about how to please God in his life. So I have 4 tips for you to consider on how to embrace your singleness and really see it as a gift from the Lord and be most effective in this season of life that the Lord has blessed you with. First, if you want to embrace your singleness in this season of life, take advantage of the extra time that you have to be committed, devoted to the local body, to your church. I think embracing your singleness means that you're taking every opportunity to make yourself available within the local church, whether it's attending events, being there to talk to people, to be intentional with people, participating in meaningful conversations, dialogues, participating in Bible studies, and really being active wherever you can, whenever you can, and at maximum capacity and effort every single day of the week as much as possible. Whether it's informal meetups with fellow brothers, pouring into their life or allowing them to pour into your life with their encouragements and wisdom, being plugged into the church through discipleship. If you have a men's program and you have a discipler or someone that you're discipling, make opportunities and set aside time to really be involved in other brothers' lives and really be able to build strong friendships with fellow brothers within the church, because that's going to be carried on into your relationship, both dating and in the future when you get married. The strength of these friendships built will last for the rest of a lifetime. So you definitely don't want to wander and waste your singleness in mediocre friendships or in surface level friendships. Really seek to develop deep, meaningful friendships with the fellow brothers within the church that will result in intentional conversations, good accountability, and constant challenge, just as iron sharpens iron, as stated in the book of Proverbs, that you can really be there for one another. But I think on top of that, in terms of embracing your singleness within the church and really availing yourself to the service of the church, this is the prime time for you to not just find out what your spiritual gift is, but to start putting yourself to work within the church. Don't just attend for attendance sake, but put yourself out there in service for the Lord and for the local body, for fellow brothers and sisters. Know what your spiritual gift is and get out there and start serving. There's no better time than now in this season of singleness that you can maximize your service for the church in such a way that may not be possible when you get into, when you get married and when you have a family, you have your wife to tend to and your children to take care of. Some opportunities are just going to be limited when you move on to a different season of life that the Lord has blessed you with. This is the prime time for you to spend yourself. As Paul writes in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 15, I will most gladly spend and be expended for the souls of the people around him. That should be the same mentality and attitude that you have, that you want to spend and be expended for the church in service to the Lord, exercising your gifts, because ultimately your primary concern is not just of the Lord, but also of the brothers and sisters around you, that you want what's best for their souls. And what's best for their souls and for your soul is to know God more, know God better, and be transformed into the image of his Son to a greater degree every single day. So embrace your singleness by literally plugging yourself into the church as much as possible, as frequently as possible, because church is so fun to pour your God life into, that there should be plenty of service opportunities within the church. Talk to the leaders, talk to the pastors, and talk to your small group leaders, talk to your disciple, whoever it is, and talk to your elders, how you can really be used within the church in an effective and meaningful manner. But much more than that, I think second, you also want to consider embracing your singleness even within your family home life. Whoever it is that you may be living with, whether it's family members, roommates, apartment mates, co-workers, even maybe very likely brothers, fellow brothers within the church. Utilize that time to not be idle within the home, but take every initiative to exercise leadership in the way that is appropriate and respectful of other people within your household, so that you can know what type of pattern of life, right? Family structure that you do want to have in the future when you do become the head of your own family. Now, again, this should be done in such a way that is respectful with people that you are living with, and in such a way that is not, you exercising, authority over them. You, as an unmarried man living, whether it's at home or with fellow brothers within the church, it's not for you to lord it over them. But I think you can, in wisdom and a mutual respect and submission to the men in within your house, that you can exercise and be wise with your leadership in such a way that can be really uplifting and building Christ-like characters into the people that you're living with, right? Take the initiative to take care of chores, because that's going to be underneath your responsibility as a leader of the home in the future. Take responsibility to be deeply concerned about the spiritual state of those whom you're living with, because that too is going to be your primary focus of leadership once you become the head of your own household with your wife and with your future children. That you want to make sure, hey, check in with them. Are you reading consistently? Are you praying consistently? Are you doing all sorts of other spiritual disciplines on a consistent, frequent basis, that you're actually growing? But that also means you got to set an example as a man of growth within the home as well. Don't stay stagnant. Oftentimes as men, we can get really, really lazy in our own homes, that we kind of just drop all the responsibilities and just potate and vegetate on a couch and just sit there. But don't do that. Take the time to see your time at home is still ministry time. Your time at home is still a time for you to be a minister of God, to minister to people that you're living with, to be an example, to be a living testimony of an active God who is not asleep, just because you're at home, but who's also actively and powerfully working in your life in the home and outside of the home, even in leisure time and in a busy work time. Whatever time it is, home time is still important in the eyes of the Lord. So home time should still be important and be thoughtfully considered by all of our single men, so that you're not just wasting and squandering time away. Third, in terms of embracing your singleness, you really want to embrace your singleness in the workplace. Now, this is not for you to use that as an excuse to only prioritize and idolize the workplace so much so that, I'm just setting up my career so I can get the most amount of money for the future and whatnot. So I do want to caution you against that. Don't idolize work so much so that you spend 60, 70, 80 hours at work overtime just to get that extra promotion. However, it does mean in this season of singleness that you do have, that the Lord has blessed you with, you can put forth diligence and excellence in your workplace in anticipation and in prayer, in hopeful anticipation that the Lord will bless you with promotions. And I don't think that's at all a bad thing to strive for, that you are excellent in the work so that you can set up a strong foundation for your future career and move ahead in such a way so that you can be the provider of the family as commanded in scripture for men to provide for the family. I don't think that at all is a bad desire. So don't just hop from one job to another job aimlessly, thinking to yourself like, it doesn't matter. In this season of singleness, I don't really have my career established. I don't really care too much. My degree I can always go back for later on. Whatever it may be, don't do that. Start planning ahead. Be a man. Take ownership of your job or of your education and start planning ahead 5-10 years from now. Where do I really want to be at in terms of my professional development and career? Because that's going to be important for your future family. And you want your wife to be confident in your ability to be a hard worker. And not just kind of hop from one job to another job where there's a lack of financial security, which altogether could actually cause a lot of lack of trust within the marriage as well. So take your job seriously and take your career development seriously. But again, the caution is don't idolize it. Don't think like, this is it and there's nothing else that matters in life. No. Consider the priorities, prioritize the church, prioritize your home, and most definitely be an excellent worker. Be an excellent worker and trust in the Lord that He will reward you faithfully. Very likely, because of your strong work ethic, your employer is able to notice that and be able to bless you even with a promotion. And that is nothing bad in and of itself. Just make sure you don't idolize it. And connecting kind of to number 3, embracing your singleness in your workplace, I think embrace your singleness in your finance as my final tip to you. Oftentimes, I think single men can be very or can lack self-control when it comes to spending habits, that you think to yourself, I'm working now, I'm just by myself, I can buy whatever I want, I can entertain myself in all sorts of not necessarily sinful entertainments, but even like some of the neutral entertainments, collecting things, buying things that in reality there's not really a long-term use for, but you just like it and you just buy it because you currently have the expense, have the income to do so, to spend on something to spend on something with the disposable income that you do have. But I want you to be wise. Learn self-control now. How do you manage your finance in such a way that's honoring and pleasing to the Lord? I think that is also super key and important for you to learn as a single man. Don't just go out there like, oh, I have $1,000 disposable income, therefore I get to spend it however I want, whatever I want, with whomever I want. Be wise. Consider start some saving accounts, doing some basic investments. Learn how to build security into your finance. Not that this is the end all be all of your life, but I think these are good financial principles to start taking seriously, so that these are not just things that you start thinking about when you're dating or when you get to engagement, like, oh my gosh, we're finally getting married, now I really need to get my finance in order. No, start that now, start that early. Whether you're looking for a job, you're currently in school, whatever it is, or you already have a job, build strong spending habits and build strong saving habits, and be consistent with your finance principles. And talk to the older men, within the church. Hey, what are some good financial tips for me to start practicing now as a single man that can set my life up with a solid foundation in terms of how to deal with financial principles? All that is super neat and good to start. So as you can see, the season of singleness can be a quite busy, and at the same time, really, really fruitful time in your life. So don't see it as a curse whatsoever. Embrace it. See it as a blessing from the Lord, because this is a time where you get to be invested into the church, invested in your home, invested in your work, and invested in building strong financial principles so that you can be ready when the woman comes into your life who is God's best for you, that when you date her, are engaged to her, and soon married to her, and bear children together as a family, continues to expand. These are things that will be with you and stay with you for the rest of your life. That your example of involving yourself and sacrificing yourself for the church, for the home, for the work, and for good financial principles, it's going to have a lasting impact for the future family that you are building. So hopefully you find this video to be encouraging and exciting. Men, don't just sit idly in your singleness. Put yourself to work. Start building the proper foundation, not just for your future family, but ultimately be concerned about the things of the Lord and how to please God in every single area of your life. So super fun. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Guy Talk and Identifying God's Best. We will see you next time. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below if you have any feedback, comments, questions, whatever it is. If you want another question addressed in our Guy Talk, just let us know down below. We'll make sure we answer that as quickly as we can, and we'll see you next time.